The Holy Quran tells us, وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَى تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Remind people, because the reminder, it will benefit the believers. The believers will be brought back to the clarity of their mission in life as servants, as slaves of God. And so we have to remind each other and we have to support each other. That's why it comes in the plural collective in Surah Al-Fatiha. We worship you. We worship you. We seek your assistance. We ask your guidance. It's important for us to work together in this. So I want to talk about, it's unfortunate because we as Muslims should not be expected to make any sort of claims or apologies or anything when it comes to 9/11. It has nothing to do with us. Me and you and all of the other 1.6 billion Muslims, 9/11 has absolutely nothing to do with us in terms of its actual happening. But we find ourselves forced always to somehow defend. So those of us who were adult Muslims before September 11th, 2001, truly understand the significance of the phrase a post 9/11 world. Unfortunately, our children who have lived their whole memorable life in the post 9/11 world, they do not have that luxury. It is important to talk with our kids around age 10 about 9/11 and about the movement that came after it. And I'm saying this because our kids are actually feeling Islamophobia and they're internalizing it around 3rd or 4th grade. They're starting to feel something wrong with being Muslim, being affiliated with Muslims, practicing Islam from a very young age nowadays. It could be from the exposure of mass media, so many different forms of media, social media, movies, cartoons, have Islamophobic connotations and messaging. Or it could be other students at school. Or for the most part, specifically from about 5th, 6th grade on, the every year memorial commemoration of 9/11 makes every Muslim kind of feel like that. The pre-9/11 world, for those of you who don't know, here in America, it was a place where Islam was seen simply as just an exotic Eastern religion, a religion that comes from the East. It can sometimes be seen as different than the broad standard American culture here. But there was no such common fear of Islam and Muslims before 9/11. For the history, the average American in the history of this country before 2001 in September was like, oh, you know, those like kind of like Buddhists and Hindus, they have a different religion. They have different culture than us. They pray like this, some women wearing this thing, different. And of course, it's not like Muslims popped up out of nowhere. We've been all over the world now for a long time. But of course, 9/11 was a springboard to create this fear that Islam is violent and un-American. So there are two undeniable facts about the immense spread of the anti-Islam and Islamophobic movement since 9/11. And I want you to pay close attention, because when we're engaging our family, friends, or neighbors on the issue, we must be firmly, confidently rooted in these two facts. Without any doubt in our mind, with clear clarity of representing these two facts so people can hear it loud and clear. Number one, Islam was in fact, as a whole entire religion, followed by 1.6 billion people, Islam was held as responsible for the acts of 9/11 and other terror acts that came after it. The word Islam was connected to these. Okay? That being said, the nonsense here is that the consensus of Muslim scholars, even in Saudi Arabia and Pakistan and elsewhere where people would say in their mind, these are the most strict, tough places of Islamic, they're all in consensus that whatever happened on 9/11 and whatever happens when somebody kills a bunch of people, that these are major sins that are completely contrary to the clear teachings of Islam. There has been no body of scholars or no respected individual scholar on an international level who has justified these things. Anyone who did was seen as a heretic, a deviant, but yet still, we were all held guilty. According to what happened, this false association of Islam to terrorism and violence, it led to the dehumanization of all Muslims who are people who claim to follow Islam. So now we're not as valuable in terms of life as those who are not part of a religion that is violent and against human rights. So according to social psychologists, if you study social psychology, they have a historic scientific step-by-step codification of genocide. So it starts with classifying a whole group, and then it leads to the dehumanization, and then the organization of forces and government bodies to then begin to exterminate. And so that happened. The culprits of cultivating this path, which has led to a widespread genocide, at this point equal to the Holocaust of Germany in World War II, was done by international governments and widespread mass media. They were all working together to spread this narrative. This is a fact. These are scientific facts. I don't need to go into proving those to you. You should look it up. You will find these are facts. Number two is the effect of this cause. Muslims have been and still are the overwhelmingly largest victims of 9/11. The effects of the so-called war on terror have killed millions of Muslims at this point. It has destroyed 5 entire countries of Muslims, created millions of refugees, many hate crimes and murders committed against Muslims. Many laws were drafted all over the world against the practice of Islam and mosques being built. And Muslims on a widespread scale are trying to hide their faith, change their names, slide under the radar. They're not comfortable as who they are. So even in the pre-9/11 world, we were not mobilized in any sort of way, unfortunately, to properly present ourselves as a small minority living in the Western world. This, unfortunately, is our role in this massive crime against humanity that has been perpetrated against our community for 20 years. So while, unfortunately, our lack of seriousness, of understanding the opportunity and the importance of integrating in the societies which we have moved to in large numbers, and having a very solid strategy in terms of widespread curriculum, mass media, industry, not pamphlets on the street, but like curriculum in schools. What dictionaries say about us, how media talks about us, how politicians feel comfortable talking about us. Pre-9/11, we really weren't doing anything. So of course, unfortunately, this was definitely opening the door and facilitated the anti-Islam movement in the post-9/11 world. But of course, that gives us absolutely not one iota of justification for the mass genocide that we've been living in for 20 years. So there's one crucial action item for us, and that is to own our terms. when we use terms, descriptive words that are specific to us, we must use them proudly and comfortably, and we must not allow one person in this society that respects freedom of religion and freedom of speech at the same time to get away with falsely depicting us. Right now, we see a movement of a group of people in this country who by the numbers are 3 times less the size of American Muslims, at least. And these people are making a strong move to change the nature of human biology and neurology, in which the concept of gender will be changed from its historic, scientific, factual reality into a matter of personal preference. Even though 98.6% of the society technically does not agree with them, they don't have this idea and they're perfectly comfortable with their biology and the related neurology, something we all share as human beings. They don't own biology, they don't own gender. We're all having gender. That's something we all are, whether you like it or not. And yet still, they have seen major results in the normalization of their movement for the sole reason that it gives them comfort in their struggle. If you study why are we being told and massively pushed in the direction of normalizing this movement, because it makes that 1.4% of society comfortable with their internal struggle. So surely we as Muslims can equally promote the truth of our faith and expect people to respect us for how we believe and the way we see our own values, which are peculiar and specific to us. Islam is us, those who claim to be Muslim. Surely they who have nothing to do with Islam by their own decision and claim should not define what we believe and what our values are and what our terms are. So the Prophet ﷺ taught in so many different hadith and openly prayed in many ways in the day and the night, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-jubn. Oh God, I seek protection and refuge and safety in you from becoming a coward, from being a coward. A coward is someone who is not comfortable with reality as they see it and doesn't want to deal with it as it is. They want to hide from it. The believer lives in reality comfortably firm in their faith, knowing who created them, who they serve, and who they are held accountable to when they die. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه فإنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa alihi sahbihi ajma'in. So let's own our terms. I'm aware that many Muslims have internalized Islamophobia. They have now started to think and talk about Islam in the way that those who are against us would like us to think and talk about it. So first and foremost, Islam is not a religion founded by Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in Arabia 14 centuries ago. But that is written in every textbook. It's written in the dictionary. It is blasphemy for a Muslim to believe Islam was founded by Prophet Muhammad in Arabia 14 centuries ago. It is completely contrary to many ayahs and hadith. Islam was founded by God when he created things. Creation is created according to and by the will of its creator. And it functions according to the specific functionality he gave it. That is called Islam. So the human being, who is the only unique being that can choose to actually do things that are against its best interests. The animals of the world are programmed, and they never deviate, to always do what's in their collective interest. Human beings can choose to destroy themselves and others and destroy property for no reason that makes any sense. Or they can be very creative and productive and helpful and intellectual and do good things for the world. And so when a human being follows any prophet, starting with Adam and Eve, or Abraham or Noah or Moses or any, when they follow God's message, they are a Muslim following Islam. To say Islam started with Muhammad is against all of those facts that are mentioned overwhelmingly in the Quran and the Sunnah. But how do we see it? Have we allowed them to teach us what they compartmentalize us, put us into a box? My religion, your religion, my belief, your belief, the founding of this religion. It's a big almanac walking around the world. Created by whom? The West. These ideas were created by them. An Islamist is not someone trying to take over the world or force others to follow Islam. That would be called a heretic, according to us. If you're trying to force anyone to be a Muslim, or you're trying to take over the world to subjugate people to your religion as a Muslim, you are contradicting many ayahs and hadith. So an Islamist, by definition in basic linguistics, is someone who is following Islam and believes Islam to be the right way and is trying to promote that in their lives and to try to teach others. Every Muslim should be an Islamist. But again, if you look it up, these are terror groups related to the word Islam. You see? You see what they're doing? Many Muslims say like this. Educated Muslim journalists buying into this wholesale. It's sad. You cannot define the words radical, extremist, or terrorist with Islam or Islamic. Because Islamic, if you said Islamic terrorist, Islamic extremist, Islamic radical, then you're saying that the adjective for extremist or terrorist is Islam, meaning Islam describes how that is. You can't use that. The Prophet ﷺ himself, the Quran, and many ayahs and many hadith, we've given whole sermons on this, are against it. It's all about a balance. The straight path is telling you there are extremes to humanity. Try to stay in the middle. Otherwise, you go too far to an extreme, you'll fall off the straight path and become what? A disbeliever. Either a disbeliever who is heretic, enemy to the world, forcing everyone, or disbeliever who's decided that, yeah, religion is not that important, but I feel like I'm a Muslim and I just decide whatever I want to do and make up stuff as I go. And then you fall off because you're not serious about being Muslim. The middle path, those who are closest to the middle. It's about balance. Sharia is not a set of laws